Okay, good day. It's Colin Jennings from Jeeping.Net. Today we're going to be looking at these rough country control arms. I know I'm going to get probably a lot of hate on these because I've actually told a lot of people in the past not to buy these, and I've bought a full set of them. So I'm going to explain why I bought them soon. I'm going to explain why you need them. I'm going to show you the build quality of them, why I picked them, and then at the very end we're going to talk about how you actually build the joints inside them and some of the pros and cons of that joint. So first off, why do you need control arms? So from factory, control arms are fixed length. There's no way to adjust your pinion angle, and there's no way to adjust your caster in the front of the vehicle. So when you lift it, that throws off your pinion angles and your caster. This is an example of that. Let's say this is your axle right here, and this is your factory upper and your factory lower. As you lift the vehicle upwards, that rotates the axle forwards. So what you need to do is you need to either lengthen the lower or shorten the upper. So a lot of kits will just include a brand new lower, which is slightly larger, which might be fixed length. And some people for the rear, especially to set their pinion angle, will keep the factory and just get an adjustable upper. In this case, all my control arms need to be replaced, so I went for all 8 joints. But anyway, that's a very simple explanation. That's a horrible diagram, I'm sorry, but that's a simple explanation as to why you need adjustable control arms. So let's jump over the bench and I'll show you a bit more on these control arms. Okay, we're back here at the bench. We had the rough country control arm here. We have a built one and a couple of unbuilt ones here. This is the front. The rear is actually already installed on this vehicle. So why did I select these? I know a lot of people are probably wondering that. I've probably told a couple of you in the past, don't buy the rough country control arms, and that is true. A couple of years ago, these joints were not very well. They have redone these joints, and I'll talk about that in a few minutes, about some of the pros and cons of their new joint. But ultimately, the reason I bought these was price and value. There was a company here that was going out of business. They were retiring, and they were selling all their in stock items for dirt cheap. So it was 1/5 the price to buy these. Really, that's what it came down to. It allowed me to do a lot more on the Jeep ahead of schedule and stay in my price range. The other reason that I bought these is I do believe that these flex joints have improved. And worst case scenario, if these end up being junk after 2 years, these actually thread out and the metal cloak arms actually fit right in. You can see my factory arms. I had to cut this one off, but you can see my bushings were shot, very weather cracked. This one's actually not in as bad shape as some of the other ones, very badly done. So it was time to replace all 8. So now you guys understand why I selected this, and I know some of you probably still don't agree with me, but trust me, the difference between paying $400 for these and over $2,000 for a full set of arms, really helps the pocketbook and keeps my family pretty happy. So anyway, these are hefty. They are way heavier than I thought they would be. They are well built. I haven't had any real problems with them. They do use a clevis joint at one end and their own joint up here. They're fully adjustable from 0 to 6 inches of lift on the TJs, LJs, and Cherokees. The lowers have 35 degrees of flex, and the uppers have 20. And that's going to be enough for my rig, and that's enough for most people's rig. The only issue I've had so far is they obviously thread these 2 bolts right here and then powder coat. So these are actually hard to get in. I haven't stripped any yet, but they are definitely a struggle to get in. Okay, so let's take a look at how these joints are assembled. They come unassembled from rough country. They do keep this collar inserted here. So this is what you actually use to set the pretension on the bushing. Unzip this guy and set him aside. So we want to flip it over. So you will need a few tools now to get this done. First, you're going to need a good quality snapper and plier. I like the channel locks because they actually come with the different adjustable sizes. You do need a 10 millimeter wrench, and you need a 32nd Allen wrench. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to install our snapper in here first. So on the bottom of this, I just flipped it over. There's a groove in here that the snapper goes into. So as always with snapper-ins, you're going to want gloves and eye protection, which I'm currently wearing. These little buggers go flying. So we're going to get this guy seated in there. Okay, so I'm going to do this so you guys can see. So you just need to compress it down. Oh geez, we're going to get lucky here. Oh no, we didn't. Oh, we did. There we go. Okay, we're snapped into place. So The snap ring is in there. That buddy is not going to come out there probably forever. I honestly don't really understand why Rough Country and some other manufacturers actually honestly don't just put a lip in here on this side rather than using this snap ring. It would make install a lot easier and probably the joint a little better. So let's get into building the actual joint. So the way that these work, you have a bushing here, and you have your actual joint slides in here. You have another bushing that actually mates over top of this, and you can see they are indexed. They have teeth on them, which makes it nice and tight. So you have to make sure you properly align these bushings. These bushings are not the highest quality that I've ever seen. There's some manufacturing problems I can see in them already. But all in all, they're pretty good. Time will tell. And there is, you can tell, a little bit of play in them. So once it's built in there, you set the tension with this screw here using their spanner wrench that they provide. So the first thing we need to do, we need to drop in this washer. Make sure it aligns into the bottom there correctly. We drop in one of our bushings. They're both the exact same. Now, you will see on this side, there's two little holes. This one in the middle is actually where our grease zerk's going to go. I'm actually going to line up one of these little columns here with that. These are machined in here to allow for the grease to get into the actual bushing. Okay, that's in there correctly and seated. Now what I like to do is I actually like to put a little bit of grease on these fittings. Rough Country doesn't say to do this, they don't say not to do it, but I understand why they probably don't say to is this could mess up your tension in them here in the future. But I like to do this just to make sure that there's a good initial coat on these bushings, as I don't 100% trust the lubrication afterwards getting everywhere. This will help promote good lube. And pop her in there. So now we want to get our other bushing, and we need to mate it up with the teeth on the lower bushing. It's pretty easy to do. If you don't get it down there correctly, you just wiggle it back and forth. Oh, there we go, snapped right in. If you don't get in there correctly, just wiggle back and forth. You can very quickly tell when you're seated in there correctly. And then all you need to do is you need to take your tensioner, and you do need to pre-lube this a little bit. It will help you with the install. Just give those threads a little bit of lube just to help out here. There we go. Don't want too much, just enough. I'm going to set that down on that guy there, right there. Start to hand thread it in. Okay. So now to get that down there, what Rough Country says to do is they say to tighten it until the bushing is firmly seated. I try to contact them to get a bit more understanding as to what they mean by that. Obviously, you can't put a torque wrench on something like this to actually get a proper torque, but to me, just saying, until it's correctly seated is a little harder to determine exactly where that is. And I think that's one of the reasons why people have problems with these joints. I think they either way overcompress them or they're not compressing them enough. So that's just really the only issue I have kind of with the way that this bushing's set up. And I think that probably happens on a few of the other manufacturers as well, but I don't know. It just seems like an area of possible future failure on these if you don't set the preload here correctly. So now you just spin this guy down until it's firmly seated. Okay, now I just got a bit of resistance there, so I'm just going to move the ball around here a little bit. Just make sure the bushings are set up there correctly. Give it another little wiggle. Yeah, see that gave me a bit more tension. That relieved a bit more tension. Wiggle it around a little more. Up and down, bend around. Let's see how she feels. Ooh. Yeah, that's feeling pretty good. So now, what you do at this point is the instructions say, you can see there's these little indexing rings inside here, and there is a little hole right here. So what you do is you take your little bolt here, and you use your Allen wrench, and you thread it into here. So now, I can see better where this is going to line up. So I can see I need to tighten these a little bit more to get this pin to line up with that hole. there we go. You don't need that bolt in there too tight. All you need is in there, is to stop this from spinning back and forth. Really good design idea. I do give them credit on this pin. It will help this from ever backing and out. And then the last thing you need to do here on the table is you need to install the nut zert. So once this is on, I go ahead and put them on the vehicle. On the lowers, I am actually just using grade 8 bolts. I'm replacing the factory metric bolts with grade 8 imperial bolts. And on the uppers though, just because of the size of this hole and on the factory, I'm staying with the standard metric. I have bought all new bolts though for that, which will help for any future stuff. And as you probably saw, I had to cut off a lot of the factory ones. Right, we'll go ahead and install this and be back in a second. Okay, so we're back here in the garage. The rear are actually installed. The front are all fully built now and will be going on the vehicle here very soon. I'm not going to be able to give you guys a long-term review on these in this video because obviously I'm just installing them today. So what I'm going to do is in December of 2018, so a year from today, I will be doing a longer-term review on these. And if I run into any issues, I'll actually do an update in that meantime. Hopefully I don't run into issues in the first year, but I'm actually going to take one of the joints apart at that time, show you guys how it fared. And yeah, hopefully everything turns out fine. So I've already talked about a lot about what I like and dislike about these, but I guess I should talk more about the dislikes. So that's probably what people are more interested in. So one of the things I dislike the most on these is probably the fact that it's not the joint at both ends. It doesn't bother me enough that I didn't make the purchase. I think there's probably pretty good value in the Curries and metal cloaks if you're able to get them in the US dollar, obviously, and just $100. I mean, it's probably like $200 or $300 more. It's probably worth getting the joint at both ends, and it's probably worthwhile getting the double adjustable for the rear uppers and lowers. I think that's really cool. It makes the install so much easier. They're definitely more expensive, but I would do that for the uppers and probably stick with the single adjustable for the lowers, just because wear and tear, these are going to last a little longer. One of the other items that I don't necessarily like about these, and I know the comments are going to show it, is the reputation that Rough Country has. I know there's going to be some people a little upset that I installed these. I've told people in the past not to install them, and really it was the old ones I was talking about. This new joint, you know, I think it's going to do pretty well. There have definitely been some people report issues with them, but there's been people that report issues with the other brands as well. So I think a lot of it has to do with how you build them, how you use them, and what you expect out of them. But yeah, I think Rough Country though is stepping up their game. I think it looks like from their products and what they're offering, they are, for products like this, I think doing a pretty good job. Obviously, they have to keep their price point at a certain point because that's where they are in the market. But yeah, I think if you're on a budget, these are good ones, especially if you're going to include them in one of their lifts maybe. I still don't recommend their shocks. That's an area I like to see them improve a little bit. But all in all, yeah, I'm actually pretty happy with these. They are nicer than I expected. For 1/5 the price for me, to compare to like the Curry or the metal cloak, I think these are going to be a really good value, and I think the vehicle is going to be very happy to have these on driving around here fairly soon. So anyway, if you got any questions, ask them below. Please give me a thumbs up or anything like that. If you like the video, it helps me produce them a little more. As I see people thumbing up them, makes me want to come out here and actually make more videos. So anyway, thanks guys, and until next time, thanks.